Hi all, this is Skate, and this is part 2 to my Jagdtiger review. Now, in part 1 I focused predominantly on the armour more than anything else, because, contrary to belief, this thing does have armour. Basically, that's the gist of the first video. I wanted to highlight how I like to use the armour, and how, based on that, the armour works. Now, after watching that video, and watching numerous bounces happen on the top of the casement on this thing, a couple of people went, no, that didn't happen, nope, Jagdtiger has no armour, and then proceeded to write with things like, I can penetrate this in my T-54. Well, yeah, you can penetrate it in most tier 9 and tier 10 tanks. However, if you sit out in the wide open showing your lower plate, your upper front plate and your casement to everybody, you're going to die a lot quicker than if you're using a ridge and you're just showing your upper casement. Combine that with the fact of, yes, you can penetrate the cheeks of that upper casement. A lot of tanks will require premium rounds, but 260mm. But look at the size on the gun mantlet. If you're playing this thing and you're hiding pretty much everything except for the upper casement, and you're at, I don't know, anything from 100 to 200 meters plus, and you're moving like this, good luck hitting the sides of those cheeks and not the casement every single time. The reality is it just doesn't happen. That KV4, for example, if he could hit my cheeks from this range, I would eat my hat. It just would not happen, point blank. He could do it maybe once in a blue moon, but consistently, no, it'll never happen. Add a wiggle to that, and I don't fancy the guy's chances of hitting those cheeks. But that's the point in this sort of video. It's not here to say, do this and you're guaranteed to win every single time. It's, do this, or this is what I like to do, and it increases my survivability, increases my chance of winning, thus hopefully improves win rate or average damage in said tank. It's not a guaranteed gospel going to work every single time. But I tell you what, play it to the way it's meant to be played and to its advantages and its strengths, and it's going to work a lot, well, not even a lot, a damn sight better than if you just drive out and try and out DPM everything. Yeah, you'll probably out DPM the first tank you come across, but the second one's going to take you because you've already had your health knocked off by the first one. It is the exact reason I wanted to focus armour, because I get bored sniping. I love turretless TDs. In fact, if you looked into my stats, you'd see I've played more turretless TDs across all tiers probably than any other type of tank. I really, really like them. But combine that with the fact that I get bored sniping, then I may snipe for the first minute or two of a game, but 90% of the time then I then push up. Now that does have its disadvantages, because sometimes I've pushed up a little bit too much and I've got caught out or I've died early. Like I said, it's not guaranteed to happen every single time. More often than not though, using the tank to its strengths, showing just its strengths, is really, really going to improve the gameplay. And improving the gameplay makes it more fun, which is what it is all about. But that's not what this video is all about. I spent, I think, I don't know, it must have been somewhere near 20 minutes talking about the armour on that thing. What I want to focus on in this video is the outrageous gun on this thing. I mean, best DPM in game. Tortoise doesn't hold that title anymore, and even Object 263 doesn't have the DPM to match this thing. Fully equipped, the Jagdtiger puts out a whopping 3,996 DPM. That is 4 away from 4,000. It's just nuts. Combine that with a very, very respectable 276mm of penetration, and you've got yourself something very, very nasty. But that's not where it stops at this gun. Fully equipped, your accuracy is 0.299. Then combine that again with all those other things with an aim time of 1.5 seconds and 8 degrees gun depression. It's rather nasty. If you ask me, the only real downside to this thing is its traverse and top speed. It makes it a little bit frustrating sometimes, like in that last match we had to try and leg it to get to the last AMX 5120, but thanks to that gun we managed to do a cheeky snapshot round the corner And that's not uncommon in this tank to be able to pull off a snapshot like that. And my Jagdtiger isn't fully equipped yet. In the last replay, that had 4 bits of equipment on it. In this replay and the next replay, there are only 2 bits of equipment on it. I've left a little snippet at the end of each game, so if you look in the bottom right hand side, you'll be able to see that. And the reason I'm referencing that is because this thing is godly with equipment, and even without equipment, it is godly. The mistake is just assuming you can out DPM everything, which just doesn't work. Well, it does work, but it's only going to work so long, because, like I said earlier, the next tank that comes along is going to have full health, and, well, you're not going to out DPM it then, because you've got, say, half health from your first encounter. Which is why I wanted to focus on the armor so much, but, jeez, 4,000 DPM. That's absurd. And when you lay that DPM down from a strong position, it's just devastating. And it's not like you're picking away at a tank at that point. You're doing 460 alpha a shot. That's not picking away. That's taking massive chunks in very, very short intervals. I mean, my reload is 6.9 seconds on this thing. 460 alpha per shot, you are literally tearing tier 8 tanks apart. It's a bully at tier 8 because that armor really does hold up ridiculously well against tier 8s when you hide in everything but the upper areas of the tank. And then on top of that, you're tearing everything apart with its DPM. It's just, I can't. It's filthy. That's exactly what makes this thing so much fun. I don't know why it hasn't been nerfed, and I hope to God it isn't nerfed. And I don't think it, I mean, snapshot. See what I mean? Yeah, I fully aimed in on that Foch above on the left-hand side, and I missed that one. But that snapshot then, on my back chat, you shouldn't be able to pull off shots like that. But yeah, nerfing and buffing. If you look at the stats on this thing, on paper and statistically, it does look like an absolute animal. Yet if you look at the average win rate for this thing, the average damage, it is very much in line with its peers. And that's because, in my honest opinion, people run out in this thing just relying solely on that DPM, or they stay purely back of the map and just basically trying to provide cover fire. Now, I'm not saying that's the case for everybody. I'm just saying that as a general populace, you seem to find that as a common occurrence. There's a Jagdtiger at the back, which is why I think if people did focus more on the armor of this thing and not just the DPM, this thing would be devastating. It is the only way I could describe it. It would be absolutely devastating. But thankfully, it's not. I say thankfully because, well, it's not. That means we get to enjoy it the way we love it, which is being absolutely terrifying. If people roll out in a Jagdtiger being absolute idiots or just showing off every single weak spot on their tank, then yeah, you're going to get torn apart. If you know how to play the tank, well, it's going to be horrible to come up against. And I'm guilty of this myself. I mentioned this in my previous video. Actually, before we continue with that train of thought, what I was saying about the DPM against tier 8 tanks, check out how quickly we take out his completely full health KV5. It's just, you kind of feel bad. I am aiming for his weak spot, but you can see from looking at the front of his tank, I just don't need to. I guess it's a good habit to have, I suppose. How quick you tear that apart. Yeah, it's not nice. Well, it is nice if you're the Jagdtiger driver. But yeah, train of thought. When I first came through the Jagdtiger, I sucked in this thing. I was very honest in saying that. It was one of the first lines I played in the game. I played it awfully. And I think my stats in this tank suffered for it. However, as I mentioned in the previous video, coming back to this tank, I didn't realise how good a tank it was. It's a popular tank because it's quite an iconic tank, so when you're new to the game, or when a lot of people are new to the game, they go for this, along with Tiger lines or other German famous lines. And when we're new to a game, or we're fairly inexperienced, and we pick up tanks like this, we suck in them. I certainly did anyway. I didn't think it was that good a tank. And like I said, it's only after playing a lot more battles, picking this thing back up, and then going, yes, it's really good. But like I said, back in my inexperienced days when I didn't know how to play, and I wasn't really that enthralled in the game, more enthralled in the idea of playing certain tank, I wasn't good in this tank. Picking it back up after being more experienced and knowing how to angle, knowing how to play with armor, manipulate it, and try and aim for weak spots and so on and so forth, blah blah blah. It's just so good. And yeah, back in the day, the Tortoise did beat this thing for DPM. And this thing has received buff after buff. But even so, the playstyle remained the same, yet I still sucked in it back then. And even now, I can make horrible mistakes. I had a couple of games recently where I went a little bit too aggressive and died after doing very minimal damage. It happens to us all. As long as we're having fun and we learn from it, what's the harm? Yeah, that was a bad shot, wasn't it? Now the other thing then is a lot of people mentioned it in the previous video. Well, not every map is Dune-y, so you can use the dunes basically to hide all those lower plates. Well, this is Himmelsdorf. There's no dunes, but there's plenty of places to use as cover. There's always a place. You've just got to find it, obviously. It's Himmelsdorf. Although it's a really, really flat map, you don't really need to find cover. It's everywhere. You can actually side-scrape in this tank as well. Beauty of the big flat sides, you can side-scrape using them. However, if you let somebody have your sides, they're going to penetrate those sides all day long. Which is why you have to be very keen and focused on the minimap. Something I think is quite apparent in this game a little bit later on. You'll see me constantly checking the location of this T-54. One thing I didn't mention about the armor actually is, although I will always prioritize trying to get that lower plate hidden above all else, between shots, obviously you don't just sit there, fairly obvious, but I'll back up between shots and angle. But you'll notice, nearly religiously, to try and maximize my DPM, I'll start coming back out while I'm halfway through the reload. I'll see if we do it again by here. Yeah, pretty much. Except for there's an ISU coming, so I'm more prioritized in that. Now, another key point about the armor. I'm pushing in as close as I can to that ISU, hopefully trying to minimize the chances of him aiming down at the lower plate. And then we try to angle up, and luckily we got a bounce. Yeah, pretty much to try and maximize the DPM. Once I've got myself into a strong position, I'll back up between each shot, and then when I'm halfway through the reload, that's when I'll start pushing back out. So you can angle this thing, although it has a very short reload, very nicely actually. In fact, I'd say the reload is perfect for a quick reversal at a short, funny kind of angle, and then swinging it back around halfway through the reload. That way you are maximizing the DPM to the best of your abilities. You also notice I pushed back this way rather than helping the IS-3. The reason being is that Object 704 has a Panther on one side and that pesky T-54 on the other side. We're in a 3-on-3, so trying to keep this guy alive is very, very beneficial. You'll see I'm looking at the T-54. Yeah, I edge out just that little bit too much, and he does take my track, which is why I back it up a little bit. Look what's going on behind us with that KV-4. Look at where the T-54 is. I want the T-54, but he's disappeared, so I'm going to go help the IS-3 with the KV-4. Now the KV-4 is obviously preoccupied and busy with the IS-3, which means we can, in theory, just work away without him paying too much attention to us. And then we do see the T-54, so I'm actually going to ignore the KV-4 and try and look for the T-54. He sees what we're doing though, goes down under the bridge, which means we do finish off the KV-4, and that 704 we saved earlier, well, he's just come to the rescue and dealing with the T-54. Now, that was a fun game. We still got half our health left, and we did a grand total of 5,414 damage. We had 4 kills, and we made a profit of 31,711. And it was a fun game, and that's why I like this tank so much, because it's a thinking man's tank. You have to think when you play this thing to maximize that DPM, manipulating the armor to your advantage, popping out or making your way to pop out halfway through the reload every single time. Hats off to the enemy T-54, by the way. He didn't do a great deal of damage, but he was leading us around, which is very, very clever and very good fun. And obviously thanks to the Object 704 on our team, because, well, I probably wouldn't have done that without him. Honestly, though, if you haven't played the Jagdtiger in a long, long time, like I did, I would strongly, strongly recommend buying this thing back. Regardless if in your head you had the same as me and going, it wasn't really that much fun. Picking it back up as a more experienced player, it's fun. With the amount of games I have recorded in the Jagdtiger and the amount I enjoy this tank, I could probably make a series on it. That is it for this video though. I hope you have enjoyed it. I think it was more of a ramble than any sort of thing, but hopefully there are some useful rambles in that video. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.